The first mission that we had when we got to Iraq was at this place called Al-Assad, and our job there was basically to run a prisoner of war camp. And at this prisoner of war camp, our job was basically to keep prisoners who have been deemed enemy combatants sleep deprived for periods of up to 72 hours in order to, quote-unquote, soften them up for interrogation. And the way we did that was by yelling at them. So my first question to the people who were training us on how to do this was, how do they understand? I mean, they don't speak English. And he said, well, they're just like animals, they're just like dogs. If you keep yelling at them, it doesn't matter what language you're yelling at them in, they're going to get the point. If you yell at them, get up enough times, just like a dog gets up, they'll get up. If you tell them to move left, eventually they'll get it and they'll move left. And they said, but that's not going to always work because they're so tired. By the way, they were hooded with sandbags and they were tied with plastic restraints, barefoot and circled around with concertina wire. So they were not only being deprived of sleep, but also of light and a sense of space. And so the next thing that we did was to hit the wall next to them with a sledgehammer to create this explosion-like sound to scare them. And when that didn't work, the next step was to put a gun to their heads and to charge it as if to execute them. Basically, we were performing mock executions to scare this man. And every now and then that wouldn't work, so you would grab the person who was not obeying and put him in a chamber and hit the wall next to this person to basically drive him insane and get them to obey.
I also had a former Iraqi general, some of you may have heard of, who was taken from my custody. I was told to keep him separated from the other non-combatants and give him everything he needs. If you ask for anything, hook him up, take care of him, and don't harass him. And I was like, well, I don't need somebody to tell me to not harass somebody. He ended up, a soldier came up to me later and ended up telling me that, hey, he died during questioning, during his interrogation. And I'm thinking to myself, how tough is a question have to be to kill? I don't know exactly what went on during his interrogation, but he was fine when I had him. Days after he was taken from my custody, I had in my custody his 14-year-old son, a very bright child, spoke 4 languages. He was supposed to be taken to his father. I was told that, loosen his tongue up, get him to talk a little more, just try to get him to cooperate more. And instead, that boy was being taken to identify his father's body. Now, I'm not sure, but it's possible that if that child was pro-American or just one of our friends, an ally, possible ally of us, I'm pretty sure he wasn't an ally of ours anymore.
We had a trailer truck that had some produce in the back of it, and we were waiting and finally said, okay, just abandon it and burn it. And I remember asking my platoon leader, I said, well, sir, can we let the people come get the food off of it first? And he was like, well, no, Sergeant Doherty, it's just going to cause too much of a hassle, because then they're all going to have to come here. They'll probably start getting in the road. We're going to have to control them when they're here and then try to get them all back. So it's just not worth it. And, in a way, he was right. It wouldn't have been worth it for us because it would have caused a lot more work, a lot more danger, because we've been a lot closer to the people. And so in the end, we just ended up burning the produce in front of all of these Iraqis. And at this time, I was acting as the gunner. So I was in the gun turret with the SAW machine gun, pointing it at the people over by the dirt berm at the Iraqis to keep them back so that we could burn food in front of them. And, that doesn't make you, when you're in the military, you want to feel proud and you want to feel good about what you're doing. And that didn't make me feel good. That made me feel really ashamed and really confused as to what we were even doing there.
Try to imagine yourself tonight as you sleep warm in your bed with your wife, your children in the next room. 2 a.m., your door is kicked in and men are screaming. As they kick open your bedroom door, they're screaming in a language you don't understand. They're pointing machine guns at your face as they drag you by your hair from your bed, slamming your face down onto the ground, putting their boots on the back of your neck and smashing your face farther into the concrete floor. Your struggle to protect your family and your home is futile as you are blindfolded and handcuffed so tight you lose feeling in your hands within minutes. All you know is you can hear your screaming wife and children crying for help, and you are too useless to protect them. You are not on a list of suspected terrorists. You are not on a list of known terrorists. In fact, you completely supported the U.S. coming into your country and promising freedom and prosperity. You are simply a man in a house on a street that my platoon decided to search. When your blindfold is finally released, the men have left your home, it's destroyed. Your wife and children are hurled in a corner defenseless and crying. Every drawer in your home is thrown, the contents broken, soiled. Your bed has been urinated on. Your wife's panties are glued to the wall. Maybe a family heirloom is missing, or other objects stolen. The floor is wet with fresh chewing tobacco spit, and you vainly try to tell your family it'll be okay and never happen again. But in your heart, you know all the while, your chances are it probably will.
Raid after raid after raid, and they'll just have to pick up, and it just happens again the next night. And this is how we're forging a new relationship with the people of Iraq. This is how we're building hearts and minds in Iraq.
Every town would go through, the tanks would go in and shoot up the place, and then 5-10 minutes later, all the logistical support would drive through, and to my left and right, it just I would just see bodies everywhere. Not many could be clearly identified as actual enemy combatants.
You can see why the insurgency has grown, why when I invaded their country in 2003, there actually was no insurgency. It wasn't until I came back the next year that had started.
House raids. Because we were a grunt battalion, we were responsible for going on several patrols. A lot of the raids and patrols we did were at the night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, around there. And what we would do is just kick in the doors and terrorize the families. That was an image taken around 3 o'clock in the morning through night vision goggles. And that is the segregation of the women and children and the men. If the men of the household were giving us problems, we'd go ahead and take care of them any way we felt necessary, whether it be choking them or slamming their head against the walls. If you go back to that one picture, that was one man that wasn't taken, that was taken care of in a very bad way. Because of all the wiring that he had, we considered it IED making material. On my wrist, there's Arabic for FU. I got that put on my wrist just 2 weeks before we went to Iraq because that was my choking hand. And anytime I felt the need to take out aggression, I would go ahead and use it.
It's just a typical night raid. It was my platoon, a couple Bradleys. We rolled out to this house, and the procedure for getting into the gate, because typically there were concrete walls with metal gates closed and secured, so we would pivot steer the Bradleys into the walls to knock down the wall and tear down the infrastructure, whatever security infrastructure the person's home had, sometimes even crushing the vehicles parked right behind it because you can't see over it. After doing that, we drop the ramp and continue inside. We go to the right door, which happens to be the wrong door. You can't get in the house through this door. There's actually there's a deep freeze behind the house. So in all this chaos, everyone's screaming and trying to find another way to get in. We go through the front door, and then we start hearing a lady screaming from the inside. Her and her children. And we get to the door and bust the door in and take her and her children to what we call the EPW roundup area, which is where a couple lower enlisted soldiers would take the enemy prisoners of war, like this lady and her children, at gunpoint and hold them until the raid was complete. So moving on through there, we entered their house, and destroyed it. We rummaged through her personal effects that touched things no one should ever probably touch, looking for weapons. Puncturing the walls, looking for soft spots. That was the new thing at the point in time, that they were putting things in the walls. So that was our order. So I guess to make this a long story short, we destroy this lady's house and we find nothing. We've scared her to death and her children. We were off by a number. It was the house across the street.
We've heard a lot about different raids and kicking down the doors of people's houses and ransacking their houses. But this mission was different, a different kind of raid. I never got any explanation for these orders. We were only told that this group of houses, 5 or 6 houses, were now property of the U.S. military, and we had to go in and make those families leave those houses. So we went to these houses and informed the families that those homes were no longer their homes. We provided them no alternative, nowhere to go, no compensation, and they were very confused and very scared and did not know what to do and would not leave, so we had to remove them from those houses. And I tried hard to be proud of my service, but all I could feel was shame, and racism could no longer mask the reality of the occupation. These were people, these were human beings. I've since been plagued by guilt anytime I see an elderly man, like the one who couldn't walk, who we rolled onto a stretcher and told the Iraqi police to take him away. I feel guilt anytime I see a mother with her children, like the one who cried hysterically and screamed that we were worse than Saddam as we forced her from her home. I feel guilt anytime I see a young girl, like the one I grabbed by the arm and dragged into the street. We were told we were fighting terrorists. The real terrorist was me, and the real terrorism is this occupation.
You understand? Up, now. Let's go. Come on. Up. Yeah. Up. Oh! Here. Here's your cane.
Hey, sit down, you.
Hey.
Sit.
Sit. Hey, Jack. All right. Go to the house.
You got him?
Hey.
This guy's got a bum knee? Yeah.
No. You have to stay. You stay.
Hey! Sergeant C.
Put them all in here.
Let's go.
Put them all in here. Put all the women in here.
Christ.
No. You too. You too.
You?
Go do. Why you got this shit? Put the little kid in here.
Hey! Well,
Some more food else. No. You too. Go. Come this way. Somebody get this old man.
this guy just, you want to pick him up and carry him, he's just like a stack of weight. Sit down. You can stand there, it'll probably take you an hour for you to get back up.
We want to know why you came to Iraq. Why? No, not you. You're a politic. You're a command. Why came here? You said you have many reasons. Still now, you don't have anything. But look what you done. You destroyed. You destroyed all the people. Why? Because your politic is very wrong. From the beginning, when you let the people steal everything or take everything.
This all happened, okay?
This all happened. But we want to know how we can live now.
هذه سياسة وهذه مصالح ومصلحة أمريكا فوق الكل وكلها أكاذيب بس الشعب بعده مغلوب على أمره لأنه صدام دمر كل شيء حتى قتل بيه الروح قتلها بيه يعني أبدا ما متفائل بوجود الأمريكان وبالعكس أنا أحب الشعب الأمريكي الله سبحانه عز وجل خلق الناس كلها وخلقنا نحب واحد يحب الآخر، ومؤمن جدا بالسلام، مؤمن جدا بالحب، لكن أبدا ما مؤمن بوجود الأمريكان. وجود الأمريكان يشكل ضرر على العراق وعلى البلدان المجاورة، ويحاول يخلق فد قاعدة، والمستقبل القريب هو اللي راح ينبئ لكم الكثير انه الامريكان وجودهم كان جريمه بحق منطقه الشرق الاوسط كلها، واللي اوجدها صدام.
السيد بوش تشذب علينا، يقول لك انا خلي العراق احسن شيء، مو اول شيء لا جاب الامان، لا جاب الثقل، لا جاب البشريه ذولا كلهم قاعدين على طاله بطاله، قطع رزق العالم، لا كهرباء، لا مي، لا سيارات، تسليب بالشارع، نهب، اي واحد يطلع هو عائلته المغرب اتحداه، او يطلع بسياره نظيفه اتحداه.
غاز ماكو،
زين، غاز ماكو، بنزين ماكو، غاز ماكو، نفط ماكو، زين، وين الامان جابه؟
والله يا صدام يعني ما ادري شو اذا اقول لك، يعني هو الاذى تعامل ويا كل دول العالم ضد هالشعب هذا، تعامل ويا امريكا، تعامل ويا بريطانيا، تعامل ويا فرنسا، تعامل ويا الاتحاد السوفيتي، تعامل جميع البلدان العالم ضد هذا البلد.
This is after one of the guys in weapons company had gotten shot. This is a way that we would take out our aggression. For those of you who don't know, it is illegal to shoot into a mosque unless you were taking fire from it. There was no fire that was taken from that mosque. It was shot into because we were angry.
I'm sick to death of being told how much better the Iraqis' lives are, how there are places who have fresh water who've never had it. Well, whoop-dee, you know, they list the problems we have in the United States of America that really are serious problems that need to be addressed. Things like health care and education and taking care of our military in a real way. What if somebody came to us and said, we're going to fix all of these? I mean, which is not the promise we've made to the Iraqis. We're going to get you some things, you know, life's going to be better. But if somebody straight up and said, we're going to fix all of these, I mean, irreversibly, and really fix them. The only thing is, we're going to kill tens of thousands of you. We're not going to tell you who it is. Would you sign on to it? It might be your mom. I mean, okay, fresh water is great now, especially if you've never had it. Is it worth your mother's life?
The other side will present you with this image of Iraq, of American soldiers passing out candy bars and building schools and tending to sick Iraqis, and we will not at all deny that those things take place. The only thing that I would encourage everyone to consider is that other image of Iraq, the war, the death, the destruction, the brutality of the occupation, and then ask yourself, which do you find more profound? Because that's the question the Iraqis are asking themselves.